Hey everyone, it's nice to be here again. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Caitlin. I'm your host of Lead From Within. And today we're going to talk about stepping into human divinity, aka acting as a conscious creator. So, if you haven't seen our last two episodes, I recommend diving into those because, especially if you are someone who's tuned into this because you found that you can relate to experiencing symptoms of PTSD or something more severe, I go in and talk about the stepping stones before I got to this point, before really stepping into conscious creation. So there's kind of a process. So let's dive in. So when I say conscious creation, a lot of times we might think of it as being conscious of our decisions, right? Of what we're choosing. And I feel like before we actually activate the I am and like identify as awareness, we go through this stage where we're choosing and selecting really consciously, right? Where it means everything outside of us, we're selective about it because we understand the impact it has on our energy. That's how we usually think, right? And at least that was mine. Let me know if it's been different for you in the comments, but I found that before I really understood myself as awareness and the I am, I was still like acting in that way, victim to the world outside of me, rather than acting from a place where I am the operating power and where I am awareness and I choose the reality I want to live in, right? By focusing my awareness and so being selective of my awareness instead of choosing what I digest or don't digest. Now, of course, even when we get to this point as the I'm awareness, we're even more connected with our attention, right? But I think at this point we understand that the 3D, there is nothing bad in it, that everything is love, right? If you're on my YouTube channel, Compassion Tapestries, I actually also go through the logical framework that I had to go through to get to that point of building that foundation of all being love. And if we're not there yet, we're going to see things as this is that, this is this, like being judgmental and adding labels to things, especially labels of morality. And so we're still living in duality. We're still perpetuating that. And when we're living in duality, we're not living in the one God mind. So the one God mind is where we are one with everything, where we know that everything is a projection of us, that everything is me, that this whole world is just inside of me. And so when I talk about conscious creation, that's what I'm talking about today. So I'm not talking about consciously choosing or consciously selective. If you're there, there is another level. There is a deeper way where it's still where we're not victims to our 3D. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, I just wanted to share more about my experience, and I know it might be different for everyone, so I would love to hear yours in the comments too. What similarities do you see in my journey? What's been different for you? But so in my journey, particularly, I stepped into human divinity. So as I said, after choosing things selectively, like I didn't realize I was still a victim of the 3D. And now as I'm practicing conscious creatorship, what that means for me is I'm knowing that, number one, as we touched in last video, the last podcast, I'm not suffering anymore. I finally choose not to suffer, right? So now that I'm free from that identity, free from any form of suffering, I also know now that I am free to choose what is shaped around me because I know that I create my circumstances. And that's not to say that we know how things will unfold. Actually, we don't know how things unfold. We only know the end, right? So when we shape our reality, we focus on the end result. I'm talking about the law of assumption, where we are not even focused on the result, really. We're actually focused within. We're focused on the embodiment of that state. I am wealth. I am abundance. I am here. No, this is my life. I am experiencing that, right? So rather than waiting for things to come to us or waiting for things to change, we are saying, I'm already living this way. And so now the 3D isn't determining what we're experiencing. We're saying, this is my reality. 3D, you have to catch up with me. And I guess I should just point out 3D. What does that mean? And I know some of you are probably way more advanced than me, right? But I just want to make it clear in case anyone's like new to this journey. So the 3D is our senses, really, right? I'm talking about the sense, the material world outside of us. The 3D as in seeing or being perceiving everything just as dense objects, as things outside of us. And so when we're conscious creators, that's another thing that changes. Is so step one, free from suffering, right? And then selecting the realities, living in the end, and then really seeing the world as fluid, as malleable. So we've talked about how we can select our realities. Let me go a little bit more into that if you're new to this. So it's, again, just talking about shifting our awareness, right? So it's not even that you're trying to force anything. It's that because we know we are life force, we know that everything has a consciousness. And this is what Hinduism teaches. But since everything has a consciousness, everything is living and everything's inside of us, we are one with everything. We have the ability to change what we see around us. And it's because the mirror reflects only what is in our thoughts, feelings, and frequency. So when we're in alignment with the God state, when we're saying, I am this way, I am already successful, I am healed, reality will shift to match that. So it's holding the conviction and deciding that this is this way, regardless of what your feelings may tell you, regardless of what your outside circumstances may tell you, regardless of what people might tell you. It's like you'll be faced with things that are right in front of your face, and you're saying, I choose to turn the other cheek, right? And what this does is as we stand in our assumption and we go through the movements, right, still kind of doing like what we have to do, but we don't do it for an outcome anymore. We're not doing it to try to force a result. We're doing it knowing that, hey, I'm alive, I can do this, I am the I am, and we're grateful for whatever we're experiencing. But we're understanding that this is not a jail cell, that this reality is not the final say, right? It's not a sentence. It's just an option. And I am so glad that I awoke to this, because if I hadn't understood this principle, I would still be terrified of people. I mean, the reason I'm so passionate about sharing this is because I was at a place where I literally was scared, terrified of talking to humans. I literally was not able to live my life normally. And after understanding what was actually happening, that there was an opportunity to awaken to the I am within me, I just have to keep sharing this. So anyway, sorry, I get really emotional sometimes talking about this because it does mean so much to me. Um, but okay, so pardon, this episode's a little bit more jumbled. It seems to be a little bit more jumbled because I feel like there's a lot to unpack here. But let me share more about something that this is what really inspired this episode. And so yesterday, these past 2 days, you know, it's not even these past 2 days. I'm always, ever since I've been awake, I'm always observing the mind, right? Because I am the observer. So when I observe these thoughts that are not congruent to the God state, if there are thoughts of lack or scarcity, if there are thoughts of doubt and fear, I immediately come in as awareness and I assert the truth, the spiritual truth, because that is the truth. What we assert as the truth is the truth. It's not, the thoughts are not the truth. What is happening outside of us, no one can tell us what is true except ourselves. And so a lot of work has to go into that, regardless of whatever your awareness you're focusing on to shift. And so this is a part of human divinity that people don't really talk about on YouTube channels or wherever. It's like people show you like the end result, and I get that. We want to not talk about the process, the middle, right? Because we understand the power of our words, so we keep everything inside. But what I want to share is about that messy middle where when we're living in the end result, we're in the law of assumption, we're in that God state, and we're keeping observation of what we're experiencing in our mind. We're not giving power to the 3D. We are we're just being stillness and operating in the world as the I am, going through our days, firm in the I am. So when we do this and we operate as the I am, when we come across those seeds, those thoughts that don't align with the God state, there are times when we will, I want to put this delicately. I don't want to make it sound totally violent, but there are times when it will require us to face these thoughts in such a way that will seem, I guess the best way is to say it is it will seem psychotic, because these voices will come in, these thoughts will come in that you've been trained with. And when things arise at that moment, this is the opportunity to speak the new stories. So what living in this way does is it gives the opportunity for all of these thoughts, these programs to arise to the surface. And when we don't operate in our human divinity, we'll never see those things because we're just going along with the programs, the limitations. We're just surviving as this ego state about, your name, born here, who you are, I am this. Like if you're saying I am your name from this town, this is my limit, then you're going to keep those programs are just going to be in a loop, and you're going to keep getting, your reality will continue to give you what you keep telling yourself. And so once I started to get out of that state and to operate as the Godhead and to really take Jesus's words seriously, I am the Word made flesh, no one goes to the Father but me, and thinking about the Father as that creative force, the subconscious. And by the way, there's a YouTube channel that's like really great at teaching this called The Power of I Am. That's really helped me a lot. But once I started to really operate from that state, it gave opportunity for a floodgate of that duality to open, right? And so those are like different levels. Like first it was safety, right? Overcoming PTSD, it was safety. Well, now I have been affirming and deciding that no, the world is safe. The world is safe. The world is gentle. And this is, again, I think I say this quote a lot, but it's true. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world, because he understood that that's the reflection. It's not like a moral fuzzy sentiment. Like, no, it's literally be the change you want to see in the world. So I'm choosing the world is safe, the world is gentle. This is like all these societal programs that's telling us otherwise. I'm changing that for my highest good and the highest good of all, right? The next level would be like wealth. So then the different levels we're at, when I'm unlocking wealth for myself, well, now I'm at the point where money is like water. Money is as abundant as water, and there's never a shortage of money. And anyone who tells us otherwise, that's the lie. That program is the lie, because nature is abundant. We are infinite beings, and we are connected to source, and source is infinite. And this is things that the elite know. This is the things that people who have secured money know, because you have to embody wealth before receiving anything in the physical. Everything in the physical is a result of the invisible. So, there's just different levels to this that I'm realizing once we step into our human divinity. It's inviting that suppressed and the subconscious programs to come to light. So you're cracking open the door. And it might not be a peaceful entry in your mind. It might be a chaotic whirlwind, but you get to calm it down. You are the eye in the storm. Those thoughts can swirl, and then you just gently assert your truth, right? You don't have to force it. You're not fighting with the old program. You're coming alongside it, and now you're saying, okay, we don't need you anymore. Thank you. Here's the truth, and you're just planting seeds, new seeds. Because now, instead of being programmed by the world, you're programming your world. You're programming your reality. And it's the greatest proof of this will be what you feel inside. And once you begin feeling it inside and really are in tune from the inside out, you will start seeing the changes in your life. So that's more about stepping into as conscious creators. Is I think I just wanted to share this because I feel like a lot of us might still be tempted to force things, like, and plow through the world without just changing our inner world to get a different reflection, right? So we have to remember the reflection shows us what's inside of us. We can't paint the mirror or try to change the mirror, interact with things outside of us. If you listen to manipulate change, if you listen to Neville Goddard, Florence Scovel-Shinn, they have some incredible stories about people they've helped who have tried to change things in their lives and just, nothing worked, or it worked for a short time and then it didn't. And they would say, well, then just go within and imagine it differently and be persistent and feel the change as if it's already done. And then the change would occur in the reality. And that's a principle I absolutely live by now. And it allows us to become fully responsible for everything. Not to say that we can control everything, because we can't control how things unfold. And that's when the chaos comes in, when we're in that blind period where it's like we're trusting we're in the end, but we don't see the how, because there's an infinite intelligence that's beyond our five senses, right? I had a dream, and I share this on my YouTube channel too. But when I first started this journey, I had a dream that I was in a car driving, and it was a manual car, and someone was like holding my eyes like this, and I was like shifting. I was like, I've never shifted. Like, I've never done a manual stick really, But it was a representation of what I was changing, of how I was operating in life differently now, which is using my insides, my instinct, and my intuition to make decisions. Because now I'm so connected to my inner being that the logical mind, when you're acting from the conscious space in this way and you're creating a reality, the logical mind now takes a backseat. And if you're called to this path, you will notice that nothing in your life seems to work as it once did, where you can't force things anymore. You can't do things. Because if you do, you know that it pushes things away and things are going to fall apart. So you have to just be still. You have to trust. And know that the whole world, that everything you need is inside of you. So yeah, that's the gist of it. But you know, there's always a deconstruction happening of the egoic mind and of the logic that drove us for so long, where we let the mind lead us for so long, and now we're letting spirit lead us, and we're saying, we're commanding the path. You know, we're trusting our spiritual gifts and abilities. We're trusting our powers, our divinity. And so if you choose that path too, I'm just so grateful for you. It's the best gift you'll ever find, because you realize how powerful you really are. I feel like that wraps up this episode. So yeah, if you've been in the middle too, in the messy middle, where you've been assuming something and practicing the law of assumption, keep remembering that everything's already done, and be gentle with yourself. Be trusting of the journey. Be trusting of the divine, and be trusting of your divine ability too, and your godliness. Okay, so I can't wait to see your comments and interact with you more. Let me know what you found helpful, what you have found to be true in your own journey, and I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you next time.